Pathmonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in the buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by adding Pathmark to your website in seconds, letting the AI do all the work and increase conversions while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmark.com. Welcome to today's special episode of Pathmark Presents. Let's talk about today's guest. Today we are joined by Nick Gonzales, VP of Marketing at Papa Shot, and Mr. Pop himself. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Of course. So, well, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. I mean, we have a special guest today. Nick, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Mr. Pop.
Sure. I get that a lot. So for folks who don't know him, this is Mr. Pop. Just a little bit of background, I suppose. So he's been coaching basketball, involved in the basketball game for 50 years at least.
I don't have to say the number of years. Come on now. Let's let him think I'm young.
Apologies. During that coaching time is actually when he first crossed paths with Ken Cochran. His picture's behind me. Who's the founder of Papa Shot. They actually coached together at Kansas Wesleyan for a number of years. So Mr. Pop has been a part of the Papa Shot family for a long time, but we've started using him a lot more on the marketing side lately, just because he brings a unique tone of voice, helps us kind of stand out with our creative, and helps us bring community. So that's why he's here today, just to kind of round out our conversation on all things Papa Shot marketing.
Wow, thanks, Nick. And Nick, he leads our marketing efforts on the team, and he's an integral part. One of his most important jobs is to make me look good, and that's not easy to do. I don't make it easy on him, but he creates content. He runs our whole team. He's invaluable. He hasn't been here as long as I have, but I'd say he's even more crucial, if that's possible.
If that's possible. Thank you. That's very kind.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you both. And tell us a little bit about Papa Shot. Describe us, what's the company about, its mission. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the company was founded in 1981 by my good friend, Coach Cochran. He was generous enough to bring me on board. And, it's all about community, teamwork. It's a solo game for the most part, or it's competitive, but it's kind of all about having fun together, having a blast, bettering your skills. Everything's a high score chase, so that's kind of what we are on the company side in terms of the actual gameplay and community and things like that. I'm sure Nick could kind of speak more to our company goals on a larger scale, but that's kind of it for me. I'm all about the hoops and the basketball themselves.
Yeah. I mean, we all love basketball here. Like Mr. Pop said, the company was founded in 1981. It actually came under new ownership about 10 years ago. And some of the bigger initiatives since that time has been, the company today is 100% D2C, Amazon and our own website. And the entire product line, just until a couple months ago, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, is for home products, right? So a 2-hoop game or a 1-hoop game that, families enjoy in their basement, in their garage, in their living room. And we're based in Peoria, Illinois, and we're just kind of doing our thing.
Awesome. So I'm curious because obviously you guys have been around for a while, right? So tell us a little bit about how your audience finds you. Are there certain type of businesses or industries that you feel where your product really shines? You were talking about arcades and whatnot earlier, but yeah, if you can expand on that, that would be great.
Sure. Is it okay if I start this one, Mr. Pop?
Absolutely. You know better than I do.
Sure. I mean, so I think what makes us where we're a little unique maybe from some of the others, and what we hear a lot when we talk to just customers who have already purchased is, their story usually starts with, my son came home from a sleepover and they had Papa Shot in the basement, or I was at a movie theater and we were 10 minutes late for the movie because we got hung up playing the arcade basketball game out in the lobby. So, there are a lot of these arcade basketball games out there in the wild. We're very lucky because we're the original arcade basketball game. And so now, Papa Shot, the brand name, is synonymous with the category. So when we look at, where our traffic's coming from, a lot of it is direct. A lot of it is organic search, just people kind of seeking out the games. And usually we're the #1 kind of destination when that search begins. And now, one cool thing that's happening this year as we're trying to now be kind of a more active player in kind of generating that kind of like out of home interaction is the launch of our new Elite product. And Mr. Pop, why don't you know a little bit more than I do about this one? Why don't you kind of fill them in on what Elite's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Elite's all about the actual competition. This is the real deal. We've been in the home market for a long time. This one's going out in public. I'm sure a lot of listeners would know that you're not always super gentle on things that are out at the movie theater, out at the bar, that kind of stuff. So this is the game that's meant to last, and it can take the abuse. It's for the real deal players. It's the biggest game we've ever built. And, we get them out there. We've got community leaderboards. We interact online. We see people, posting videos with the new game as it's been getting out in the wild. And the most important thing is it's the standard for our new competition series. So for the first time in over 30 years, we're getting a competitive circuit going. We had a national championship last year. This year, it's even more legit. We've got better players than ever. They've been playing on the new Elite game. This is Papa Shot going forward. This is what people will have to get used to playing on if they want to be the very best in the world.
Yeah, so, we launched this Elite game specifically for commercial use. And so right now we're really focused on bars and arcades. And it's just starting to get out there into market. We have about 40 units out there into market. And as Mr. Pop said, we're kind of using it as kind of the foundational product for our competition series, which so far has been 3 qualifiers around the US. We've got 3 more planned, and they'll culminate in our national championship August 1st, which is going to be broadcast live on the Ocho. And, fingers are crossed. Mr. Pop was a sideline reporter on last year's broadcast. I'm hoping maybe he'll be the color commentator this year, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
We'll have to see. I got in a little hot water. I was maybe a little off color with some of my remarks last year. You put me on live TV. I'm a little bit of a loose cannon.
We're working on it.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I'm in for that. If you're commentating, Mr. Pop, I'm in. All right. Doesn't matter if I have to wake up in the middle of the night. I'm in Europe right now, so I don't care. Okay, I'm tuning in. But I love it. Big goals, big aspiration, and big moves for you guys with the Elite game. So, yeah, sounds awesome. I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because obviously, with Pathmark being a website tool, I need to ask this, right? You talked about organic, Nick, and how people find you. So, how much of a role does your website play in pulling in new clients? Is there anything about it, let's say, that you think really works, or anything you got your eye on improving right now?
Yeah, great question. Mr. Pop, why don't I take this one? So the primary thing that we focus on is just, is conversion, right? But I'm not talking about kind of overall site conversion. We really look specifically at conversion rate from landing page views to product detail views. What's that specific conversion rate? And then product detail views to add to cart views. What does that look like? When we compare ourselves versus kind of some of the industry standards that we see out there, we're doing pretty good. I'd say we're above average. But we really just try to drill down on making sure that the information that we think people are looking for is there, and we can make that kind of add to cart and checkout process as seamless as we can. Now, in addition to that, I would say one area where we're getting better at and excelling a little bit is actually kind of using kind of the existing customer to help power our content funnel, right? So forever we've had this thing called the Century Club. Mr. Pop, did you create that?
No, that was Coach Cochran.
Coach
His
Cochran.
big idea.
So if you have the Papa Shot skills to score over 100 points on game mode 1, which is it's a good challenge. I think I've personally only done it once or twice. And I'm still kind of
I'm aware about a few times you've done it.
Yeah,
it's something we're working on in the office.
Yeah. We don't need to get into that right now. But if you can break 100 and you can send us your score, picture or video, Mr. Pop sends you a handwritten card. You also get a special kind of a signature sticker to go on. And we also just launched monthly leaderboards, one for all ages and one for the youth. And what we found is, and people are starting to do it. People are starting to participate and pick up. And so that content, those submissions now is helping us feed our, UGC that's helping us feed our content funnel and just kind of bring more people into the fold. So that's been a fun one to kind of build community and use it as a way to continue to grow the brand.
That's pretty cool. I like the the community side of things. Obviously getting in touch with with them and making this, gamifying a little bit of, well, obviously, we're talking about basketball at the end of the day, but that community component is also gamified. It's pretty cool. It allows you to connect on a personal level, right? So, well, talking about personal, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about about you guys. So, can you give us an idea of what your typical workday looks like? Maybe some of the things that you focus on day to day at Papa Shop.
Sure. Mr. Pop, you want me to start this one?
I think I can start this one. For me, it's all about engaging with the players, keeping things lively in the comments. Nick and I work on a lot of content together. My biggest role here is as a coach. I'm trying to help all the players out there reach that Century Club, keep pushing through to new high scores. And, a lot of folks out there need help. So that's one of the things we work on is collecting some of this content and helping players improve their standing on that leaderboard, maybe make the top 10, things like that. It's all about just reaching out, helping them get better and learning the tricks of the trade. I know all the tricks. I'm a basketball. I'm very familiar with it.
Obviously. That's great. Very well said, as always. If I need to kind of summarize mine, I would say that I have kind of the everyday type of stuff, right? Looking at social media performance, looking at website traffic, looking at email conversions, right? Just kind of monitoring, staying on top of that. I have some strategic projects, which are not everyday things, but they would be things like really doing a deep dive into our SEO performance and our opportunity keywords. So then we can kind of set the plan for how we're going to start, performing better against those keywords. That's not an everyday thing for us right now, but it's something we kind of take. It's more like a sprint type of project. We have some of those. And then, my work with Mr. Pop, it's not a sprint, it's something we've been focused on, for a little while now, right? Is how can we create kind of this repeatable content model, primarily for social, but for everywhere, right? My job before this was at Spikeball, and we were spoiled because, when people were using our product, playing that kind of like that trampoline game, the 2-on-2 trampoline game, it almost automatically created kind of unique content, right? Every time someone played a point on that game, it was different. And so we created this model where people were, it's kind of a badge of honor to send your content to Spikeball, and maybe they would post it. So we've been trying to create something similar at Papa Shot, and the gameplay at Papa Shot is fun. It's a little bit more static than Spikeball gameplay, right? Especially if you're really good at Papa Shot, it can look kind of. Is this kind of the right motion, right? It's kind of a.
It's getting there.
It's kind of like a consistent.
That's what we were talking about. That's the practice.
That's the practice.
You should have seen them last week. It was even worse.
So where Mr. Pop's helping, and we're still exploring, is we get a healthy amount of user-generated content of people playing, but how can we use Mr. Pop's voice, some of his basketball brain, to add some color commentary or some coaching tips, or maybe some criticism, tongue-in-cheek criticism every now and then.
Me? Never. Come on.
To make that kind of content a little bit more engaging and unique, kind of every time, right? Because we feel like we have that's a unique opportunity we have where our users can really help us generate a lot of unique content regularly. We just have to figure out how we can augment it to kind of make it sing every time.
Okay, gotcha. So speaking of content, right? There's a flood of content out there. I'm not necessarily speaking about the one that you get sent. I'm sure it's great, but typically your social media and I'm sure that there's a barrage of information really that you can use, but there's too much, right? So I guess the question here is, how do you stay focused and keep learning? Maybe you can point out to certain places, people, or even routines that you turn to for inspiration for staying ahead.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a big challenge. Personally, I've kind of went through different phases. I had a book phase where I was kind of trying to read regularly. Right now, I'm in a new phase, and it's for lack of a better term, it's an agency audit phase. So now I'm much more likely if somebody, and I'm sure people get them all the time. Hi, I work for an email agency. I've looked at your flows. I think you've had a lot of big opportunities to fix them. Would you be open to a free audit? I get those for social media content. I get those for emails. I get those for SEO, all kinds of stuff. I don't take all of them, but when the time is right, when I have the headspace for it, I am more likely to take those now than I kind of ever have been. And I always learn a lot, right? And no, we don't always end up working with the agency and partnering with them. But I always walk out of there with some new opportunities in mind, learn a little bit more about the channel from an expert, and take those things back to the team to apply what we can, and what we think is important and manageable for us at the time.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Sounds like, the connection you make with someone as opposed to just reading a book is probably more valuable in a way, right?
Yeah, and I feel like, these agencies are working across a lot of projects and they're working on them day to day now, so I feel like the chance of it being kind of relevant and topical and even tailored to where they think the opportunities are for us today is, it's a high probability. So like I said, we all go through learning phases. That's one that I've been a big fan of lately and will continue to do, until it stops being helpful.
Of course. Awesome. So we're coming towards the end of our time together here, guys, and I want to wrap things up with one of the favorite from our audience and mine personally. It's a rapid fire question, right? So the only unspoken rule we have right here is that for a concise question,
Mr. Pop,
it would be good to have a concise answer. Hey, I won't hold Mr. Pop accountable for this one. It's fine. Let him go.
Okay.
Are you ready for it?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. So, what's the last book you picked up, and were there any gems or ideas that really stuck with you?
Mind if I take this one, Nick?
You go first, I'll go second.
I just finished reading Breaks of the Game by David Halberstam. Amazing read. 1977 Portland Trailblazers. Just all about how you fix things when it doesn't go according to plan. Strengths of working with the team. Getting to know people in your sphere. Just being flexible and always staying on your toes. Things aren't going to go 100% to plan, but, you do your best and you make a good situation out of it.
Very concise, as always, Mr. Pop. Mine is, I reread it recently. It's What Got You Here Won't Get You There, which is really just about, for me, it's about kind of just being open to reinventing yourself, and having an understanding that, building a scale to $10 million, building a business to $10 million, the skill set required looks very different from, the skill set required to build a business to $50 million. So you have to be open to evolve if you want to stay in that role and keep doing it.
Fair point. There's a lot of vision involved in that, I'm sure. Awesome. So if you had a magic wand and you could fix one frustrating thing in your marketing life, what would it be?
I would want consumers to be able to play a bigger role in like how often and what type of content they want to see from me. But then they're going to be guaranteed to see it though. I don't want to, and that's my concise answer.
Got it.
Boy, it's a tough one. I'm kind of along the lines with Nick. I'd like to see what the people want us to do and help them guide us while we give them tips and create content for their entertainment and amusement.
Very good. Very good. So last one. Let's go with this one. So if you could go back and give your past self a quick pep talk at the start of your marketing journey, what advice would you drop?
I'd stay in coaching.
You don't like your job?
Well, I like it, but it's a lot more complex.
Yeah.
Not quite rubber ball through hoop, if you know what I mean.
Good point. I understand. Good advice. I think mine would be incorporate learning something new as kind of part of your weekly process. For me, it's something I always find super valuable, but I just don't get to it I don't get to it as often as I should. So I think I think someone will be really successful if they can figure out how to make it a weekly thing, learning something new and figuring out how that helps you grow and develop your skill set.
That's a good one. Never stop learning, right? Keeps you active, keeps you more open-minded. I think I'm with you. All right, Mr. Pop, Nick, I want to thank you for being on the show with us today. And I also want to give you the last word. So if someone forgets everything about the interview today, I'm sure they won't, but what is the one thing that they should remember about the work you're doing at Pop-A-Shot?
It's all about fun. It's all about being loose and improving, always getting better. That's the nature of the game. Always pushing for those new high scores.
I like that. And if you want to see some fun, tune in to ESPN The Ocho on August 1st. See Mr. Pop commentate the 2025 Pop-A-Shot National Championship.
Oh, good plug.
Thank you.
That's a good one. And if anyone wants to, check out Papa Shot, what should they go?
Yeah, papashot.net is where they can kind of find everything: leaderboard, Century Club, information on the championship, or information on all our great products.
Amazing. Thank you guys again for being on the show with us today. And, I'm definitely looking forward to doing it again.
Cool. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Take it easy.
You too.